Hello, second grade teachers. It is so good to see you. Spring break is here, almost over already. I can't believe it. And as you're looking at this video, you might be at this point as well, or you might be a couple weeks away from where I am right now. But as we look at arrays, one thing I need to put out there is, and it's very similar to what we talked about last week with our line plots, arrays are something brand spanking new for our kids to learn. They've not had any practice with this before, and it's something that I think will come fairly easily to them as they look for the patterns and the structure of the way that they're set up. But they're going to need some structure to help them kind of make their way. And so what you're going to notice is that I have 3 videos. Now, you will see on your pacing guide that there's 5 days. And while it includes arrays as the whole week, it's broken up by there's actually 2 standards we're talking about. Now, the videos that I recorded are really focusing on the OA-C4. And that's really the idea of repeated addition to find the total number of objects in an array. And those arrays have to include up to 5 rows and up to 5 columns. And we want to make sure that our equations actually match our arrays. So what you will see throughout all 3 videos is me going back to the rows and the columns and how those connect to the equations that we're writing. And then showing how skip counting, using combinations we already know, or just that knowledge in a snap can help them answer or find the total number of objects in those arrays. So a few things that I want to make sure that I touch base with you on before you get started. The second standard, I don't do any videos on. I'm anticipating it takes about 2 days, and it's all about tiling rectangles. And I will tell you, this book, doing some of the work from in here, and all of my problems came from the Ready book. But the same with, I think it's lesson 27 for the tiling rectangles. I think you're going to be able to use that book to help you. Now, while I didn't do videos for the tiling rectangles, I did create on Mastery Connect, I did create an assessment. It's just a 10-question assessment, and it's got some work about arrays and then some work about tiling those rectangles. And I just kind of, I arrange them up, kind of mix them up a little bit. But if you go on and if you follow me on Mastery Connect, you can actually pull up this assessment as well if you like it. No pressure, but I did create one so that we could kind of combine those 2 standards and those 2 lessons in one at the end of the week, just to kind of get a feel for where the kiddos are before they move on. The other piece to talk about is really that I want you to notice in my first day, I spent a lot of time at the beginning talking about vocabulary, naming an array. What is it? Well, it's an arrangement of objects. Well, what does arrangement mean? Arrangement's like an organization. The columns and the rows have to be equal. Well, what's a column? What's a row? So you want to make sure that you really hone in and then review that vocabulary throughout the whole time that you're doing this, because it's something that's new and different to them. We don't want them to guess what those words mean. We just want to tell them, name it, and then review it over and over and over again. So I did take time to do that at the beginning of the video number 1. Also, what you're going to notice is that in video number 1, we start with these tiles. They're building it. They are actually having something in their hands. That concrete, idea of concrete, representational, and abstract, this is the concrete part. So we're starting. Day 1, they are building. And then they can actually use the Engage New York. There's a couple pages, and I named it in my lesson plan, so when you look at that, you can see it. But there's a page, a front and back, I think it's 4 or 5 problems that they can build their arrays before they do work, and that gives them practice building those arrays for that independent practice after day 1. Day 2 and day 3, I have pages in the practice problem solving book. Okay, so I've named some of those also in there. This is the page that you'll see from, it's front and back. I have it printed on 2 pages right now. I'm going to run it front and back for my students to do for the independent practice on day 1. And then you have 39 and 40 to do for day 2, and then 41 and 42 today do on day 3 after those videos. So we start concrete with our tiles. Then day 2, we're drawing them. And the first launch on day 2, I actually talked to them about if you need to build it first, you can. And so some of them built it because it's kind of tricky. Built it and then drew it, and then they just draw for the second launch. For day 3, they're writing those equations. So I told some of them, you might want to draw it first. You might want to draw that array and then write the equation. Some kids are going to need that and some are not. But letting them know that it's okay to go back to that concrete or go back to that representational to help them make sense of this work is so important. So I did try to say that in my videos as well, so that those kiddos that are needing a little bit more support can feel comfortable using that. So if your kids don't have these, I will include a page on my canvas that has the inch tiles they can just cut up and use, because they really do need to be able to build those first. So that is my takeaway. Those are things I just want you to kind of be aware of as you're working. We really looked at that standard, broke it down as they know what an array is. They're talking about columns and rows. They have a variety of arrays that they're working with. At the beginning, they're building, then they're drawing, and then they're writing equations to match it. So they're moving from concrete to representational to abstract. And there are also exit tickets that you'll find for 2 different days, and independent practices for each day. Last thing I don't want to forget to say, in my last video, I wish I would have said in my first one, so if you're working with kiddos on your own or in your classroom, pulling out this idea of this habit of regularity, patterns, and structure, this is a perfect thing for this. And actually, when you're looking at this lesson in your Ready book, it says, pay attention to structure, pay attention to the patterns. Noticing that those numbers are connected, and you can use those numbers to write those equations and to draw those arrays is really helpful for the students. So I hope you enjoy arrays as much as I did. It was hard to think about, but it was really cool making those connections as we went. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a great week of learning.